Welcome, readers, writers, and followers of Beneath the Rain Shadow Season 2. In this show, we will dissect and explore the early writing and editing process through prompt-inspired stories and monthly live story critiques with our 4 hosts. Back from last season, we have co-authors of Rain Shadows Volume 1, Tamara K. Selman, and me, Clay Vermulm. And new to the team, we have 2 very exciting additions in Gordon B. White and M. Leigh. We hope you'll join us each month for some deeper insight into the creative process and all the fun we're sure to have along the way. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Yo!
Hello, listeners,
Whoa.
readers, and watchers of Beneath the Rain Shadow podcast, readers of the anthology, and future readers of the next anthology, which we are creating at this very moment. We're back after a month of forced hiatus because life happens, and it happened to 50% of the show in a pretty major way. So thank you for being patient with us while we took that month to recover and get back on our feet here. But here we are. We got 2 stories for you tonight, so it's a double-header episode. One written by me and one written by Gordon B. White over there for me in the right-hand corner. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got 2 prompts to dive into, 2 stories, and then we will be giving Tamara her next prompt at the end.
Oh, shit.
So she can write
Gordon's
story.
like, oh yeah, I gotta give her a prompt.
I gotta look at this up real quick.
Classic Gordon. But hey, we know he'll deliver, and it's going to be great. Just as you will, Tamara, with your story, and just as you have with all your prep items, because you always take good care of us on the show here. So why don't you go ahead and lead us into our chatter topic to kick this thing off?
Yeah. So, it's a double header, but we're still giving everyone the same amount of time. We're just going to run a little long today, but it's going to be fine. And I just thought we would do something to usher in the beginning of spooky season by asking everyone what kind of spooky season podcasts they like, their favorites. And I listen to a lot, so I just threw in our top 3. And I'm going to go last because I think some of my top 3 are actually already going to be mentioned. So I have some other ones that I want to add that maybe you have or haven't heard. So anyway, top 3 spooky season podcasts. So that could be, horror podcasts or anything horror adjacent. So I would say like true crime probably fits in there, and, talk about horror movies and any of that. So who wants to dive in on that one?
I can go.
Do it.
Yeah, I was when I was at a writing retreat, I was recommended by one of the other writers there, the Old Gods of Appalachia. Have you guys heard of this?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So good.
That is so good. And it's kind of right up my alley with, kind of the genre, the folk horror that I like to write in. And my novel is set in Appalachia. And that's one that I think I can just kind of sit there and read for listen to for a long time. And I don't know, I've kind of, it's old school, but like Pseudopod, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, kind of one of the original horror ones that, I don't know. So that's probably everybody has taken a listen to at one time or another. And then I just got into a podcast called Ominous Thrill.
Ooh, I'm taking notes. That's a new one to me.
And I could probably share more about why later. But they do audio plays for spooky feminist stories. So
no kidding.
I would recommend giving them a
Ominous
watch.
Thrills, is that right? Okay.
Thrill, just
one. Okay.
Just a singular
one.
thrill.
There's only one thrill.
Yeah.
One
You want to
extended.
bill it so that you're not too excited.
Don't get too excited.
Singular
thrill is all you're going to get.
We've got one per week. That's
A singular thrill. That's all you get per episode.
Don't be greedy. Gordon, how about you?
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't really listen to podcasts because I have a lot of trouble focusing on anything that I'm not like actively physically reading.
Sure.
I will say that Pseudopod's a great one. Tales to Terrify is another one of my favorites, mostly because they publish me. I assume they publish other good people too, but then what else do? The only other thing I do is I listen to YouTubes of like Let's Play Dungeons and Dragons things. So
Sure.
those aren't very spooky. But I
Could
need like
be.
a friendship simulator
Depends.
more than I need like stories at this point in my life. So I hook into the simulacrum and I pretend that I'm surrounded by people who are playing magic and fantasy horror adjacent things. So
Nice.
That sounds good.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. I like all the ones you guys have mentioned. Nightmare Magazine has a great podcast as well. I mean, they are just audio versions of the stories they publish in the mag, but obviously those are really good stories. Gordon has a couple of those in there as well. But yeah, I really like the audio branch of Nightmare, always have. Slay House has a pretty good podcast. Partnership with the local college, and they hire actors from the theater school to read the stories. And kind of like Nightmare, they source the story material from their magazine, and then they have those actors from the theater school do the audio version. So that's pretty fun. I think they do a really good job. One I really like is Wartime Stories with Luke LaMotta. Is a podcast all about it's supernatural, paranormal, or just generally spooky or interesting accounts from active military service members. A lot of the time they submit these after they're out of the service, obviously, because if you get identified, that cannot be great for your life as an active service member. But it is all like Marines or Navy SEALs or whatever, people in foreign countries and all over the world. Or there's a lot of stories from just military training bases in America, obviously, where strange things have happened all over the world on these military bases. And these people report them. And, it's interesting to kind of like Em was talking about, the folk horror that she writes or the feminist stories that she writes. So those podcasts appeal. I'm a big isolation horror person, and few people are more isolated than like the military. So they're out in the middle. That's a
really good point.
All the time and seeing all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, and Luke LaMotta is like he was a radio host and he was a Marine, so he's got a really good crossover of those two things and lots of good connections. It's interesting too, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm not the biggest believer in the paranormal personally, but sometimes it's helpful when there's a bit of a like stakes to the corroboration of the account, and I think that when you hear it from somebody who it does not benefit them necessarily to talk about this, that adds a little bit of credence to the account for me. So that's always interesting. Anyway, I really like those. And then I would be remiss to not shout out a couple of my buddies who have awesome podcasts, like Horror from the High Desert with Scotty Milder is really, really awesome. I was just on that one. And that's one of the funnest interviews I've ever done, I think. He was super fun to talk to. We had a great time, and his show is really, really good. Horror from the High Desert. And then obviously We Bleed Orange and Black with Jeff C. Carter is a longtime favorite, and Jeff is one of my favorite people to work with in the industry. So go check those out.
Yeah, Jeff's great. I knew someone would bring up Wee Bob.
Wee Bob.
As we call it, Wee Bob. And, bobbing for apples, it's Halloween season, although it's Halloween season all year long with Jeff C. Carter. But that's super cool. I picked up a couple of new ones. That's awesome. So I don't usually listen to fiction podcasts in horror, but I like to hear stories, like personal stories. And I do love the high strangeness thing. Well, before there were even podcasts, there were radio shows in the middle of the night that you could listen to, and like George Norrie and all of that. And so one of my favorites as a podcast is one that's been around a long time. It's called the Paranormal Podcast with Jim Harold. And he's sort of the OG podcaster in that category. And covers all things paranormal. I mean, could be anything. And he's just I just really like listening to him. He's a good interviewer. He gets really great guests. He's really open-minded, so I really like that. And he always refers to In Search Of, which is an old TV show from the 70s with Leonard Nimoy, and it's all about these same topics. It's going way back. So he's kind of keeping that vibe alive. And then a newer one that's kind of more spooky stories, but they're all based on they're true stories based on a theme. It's called Belief Hole. And those guys, they were Belief Hole, yeah. And they have different, yeah, I know. But it's really good. They're really funny and fun to listen to. And then they'll sometimes dramatize some of the stories. They'll tell some of their own stories. And then they'll have readers either call in and tell their stories, or they'll read a story for the readers. So, but they might batch them by location or some kind of theme, like holiday stories or all black-eyed kid stories or whatever. So I really enjoy listening to them. And it's funny because I really only listen to them in the fall when I'm out doing my fall yard work. But there's just something about it, just like feeds that like spooky kind of vibe for me. And then I do love PNW Haunts and Homicides, which is located in Portland. And they just talk about true crime and spooky, creepy stories that happen up here in the Northwest. So obviously on brand for me. But they're two women, and they're super funny too. I just think they're really funny, and they uncover some pretty wild stuff. And then they also, when they take a break, they always point to other podcasts that are kind of doing similar work, so that you get to sample other people's work. So so those are my three. So going from that, since we are talking about PNW, Pacific Northwest spooky stories, I think we should probably get going and start talking about our stories today. So I think we'll start with Clay first, if you don't mind. Water Under the Bridge, which I believe was a Dolly Parton song, right?
It was.
Now I think about it. So I know as I was putting my notes together, I was like, Water Under the Bridge. And now I hear Dolly Parton like singing in my, which is great. She's, we're going to miss her. So
much.
So much. Yeah. She's
Tim Curry. Tim Curry too.
And Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
No. I know, it's almost like Angel and Devil.
Pennywise, yeah.
Yeah, the original. Yeah. So it's a rough day. And I mean, and he's definitely got a horror link to him. So he's special to us. Anyway, that's
my story's about perverts, so that's pretty close to Tim Curry right there.
That's true.
Maybe.
Not that he was a pervert, he just played
he just played them. Played them very convincingly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pennywise would have worn those glasses for sure.
It's true. All right. Well, anyway, we'll get to that.
All over those. Anyway, moving on. So everyone gets 6 minutes, and who would like to go first with Clay Vermulm's Water Under the Bridge? Let me, as you guys are deciding, the prompts for this are the trope is the cursed cabin of the woods, classic summer trope for horror stories. Cursed summer camp, technically.
Cursed summer camp, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And the location was SeaTac Airport and the Pacific Northwest quirk.
So well.
What's that?
Summer camp.
Yeah.
Which goes so well with Cursed Summer Camp.
I know, you guys, I have to just say, before we get any further, you both had really hard prompts this time around. So props to both of you for getting it done. Yeah. So SeaTac, and then your final, the quirk, Pacific Northwest quirk for you, Clay, was pickleball. So
before we get real quick, Tamara. We've got Undertale music in the comments. Undertale, if you're still there. Undertale is wondering what we're talking about and what we're doing on the show. There is an intro episode of the show in episode 0 that explains it really in depth. But the short form answer is we have given each other prompts and written stories, and we're about to critique them live on the show right now. So I wrote a story based on a prompt that these three put together. So did Gordon, that us three put together. We're going to critique them both right now. Classic Milford style critique, which means everybody critiques my story and then I clarify at the end. If you're into the writing process and the writing craft, this is the place for you. If you're not, It might not be. But you might also just like listening to our voices. And if that's the case, feel free to stick around. We're happy to have you. Okay, it's back to you, Tamara.
Sure. So who would like to go first? Anybody?
I'll go
want
first
to
because I
step
have
up?
less to say, and I don't want anybody to take the 3 things I have.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Gordon's
All
not
right.
answering. Do it,
I
Gordon.
gotta get my emotional support dog. Okay.
Kill me.
So there you go. Yes,
All
we
right.
like animals.
So
6
normally-
minutes.
Okay.
I'll do your timer.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'll get started.
Do.
All right. Oh no.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that I'm gonna
And
fill 6 minutes. So.
no, that's okay. Well, we got to do it. We're just trying to be fair. You know, you're a lawyer. You
That's
want
fair.
justice and fairness. So, ready,
I want
set,
money.
go.
All right. Water Under the Bridge by Vermulm. So normally when I read through stories, I take notes contemporaneously as I go, and I have a lot of question marks at the first pass. But then when I went through again, I filled all the blanks in, and I'm becoming to appreciate that more and more. Stories where not all is necessarily revealed as you read, but you have to go back and then sort of come back to it with the information you have at the end. There's a lot I like in this. Just to give sort of a overview, it's a story that takes place in sort of 2 separate timelines, with the narrator in one part having a confrontation with their father at SeaTac, and in another timeline with their mother, who's suffering dementia at this summer camp where they used to go, and the mother uses pickleball. Bouncing the ball in the racket is one of the sort of methods of keeping her mind focused and keeping her centered. And so what I really liked about this is I really like the way that I didn't know what was going on at first, and I had to put it together by the end. And I love that there's this real deep ambiguity to the whole thing. It's a ghost story, but it's a ghost story where the ghosts aren't necessarily ghosts, or at least not the whole time. There's a really cool sort of blending, I think, of that with the keeping the person or the memory focused. There's this really cool play of memory and sort of cognition and identity that keeps slipping. There are some parts that I didn't know if they were intentionally vague or intentionally sort of ambiguous, or if that's just a first draft problem. I mean, one of the things that's sort of difficult to do when you're in a first draft is to try to figure out if shifts in tense or, pronouns and names are a metatextual comment, or if they're just things that slip through the first pass. So there were a couple of that where people's names kept switching, or different people would pop up. And I didn't know if that was more of the disorienting effect that was intended, or if that was an inadvertent one. So that's something that I would recommend going back through and just paying attention to. I really liked the way that there was a sense of dread that kept building, and it takes a lot of, I think, a deft touch to be able to make something very simple, very ominous. And I think this did that really well, especially with the things like there's a cabin where the door is sometimes open and sometimes closed. And only towards the end do we actually ever see anyone open or close it. But it's sort of a very interesting and spooky bit that keeps happening there. I kept having this sort of flashback to a story by a guy named Chet Williamson called Figures in Rain, which is another sort of similarly ambiguous, maybe ghost, maybe not ghost story. And the atmosphere that this captured with the sort of the summer camp, which is abandoned, but not always been abandoned. Again, there's this cool play between timelines and ghosts and not ghosts and memories and not memories that was going on that I thought was really good. That said, I think that some of the difficulty that I had with it, I think part of it was not knowing what was intentionally ambiguous and what might have just been not yet polished out. And I think some of it too might be that when we deal with ambiguity, there are places that we want to leave ambiguous, and there are places that I think it helps to give the reader a hand. I think that sort of creating this atmosphere of dread helps sort of prime the reader for the revelation at the end. There are just parts of it that I might consider whether or not you want to do more hand holding for the reader as you go. I So I like the part of the camp, I think, the most for sure. And I liked how the part in the present with the narrator and their father having a sort of reconciliation that turns into a confrontation at SeaTac occurred. I like that. There were parts that I thought were a bit sort of what I expected. They were a bit abrupt, I think, some of the transitions. And because of the way that there is this sort of tone built up in the other layers, I don't know that it always necessarily worked for me. But again, I don't know if that would be something that's better served by amplifying the difference in tone, or if it would be better served in sort of melding the two together. But overall, I thought it was a really good attempt at a first draft. I think it's a really cool idea, and I think there's a lot of really cool blending going on there. And I've been doing a lot more reading of stories that require two passes to understand what goes on. And I thought this was a really great example of how to do that, where when you get to the end, the beginning takes on a new context. So that'll be that.
All right, you had 30 seconds left, so you actually filled up your time.
Well, we get the dog back for 30 seconds.
There you go.
He's gonna go.
All right, Melissa, you want to go next, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, no, I can.
Okay.
Next.
Clear this
Yes,
down.
he took some of mine, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, can I go ahead and start?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see. I really liked the dialogue in this story. I thought that it was incredibly natural and realistic, and very painful in a lot of spaces. And I think that made it very effective for us to get to know Corey and to feel for him, and to you just kind of understand what he is going through. I really dug the atmosphere. Obviously, like, give me that's kind of why I gave the prompt, like, give me a haunted camp, a haunted space somewhere in the woods. And I think that you did it really effectively. A lot of great descriptions, that you do feel kind of isolated, but then isolated in this really strange place, which is perfect. I also like that you named it Rain Shadow Summer Camp. That was good. I caught that. I think that there was a very beautiful tension that built rather steadily throughout the entire story. I know that Gordon was saying that, just with the just kind of the heavy sadness with what was happening with the mom, not really understanding what is going on. Are these ghosts? Is this a kind of a time loop? But kind of throughout, there was just that underlying tension that was really, really effective. And I especially love family tension, any kind of generational trauma or tension, and you could definitely feel that between Corey and his dad. Let's see. I think that the descriptions definitely did improve kind of further into the story. I felt the beginning of the story, I mean, there was like a lot of dialogue that was really, really effective, but that made the pace a little bit choppy at first, but then I think you really kind of picked up your pace in the other sections of the story. And I really loved how you kind of combined the prompt of pickleball with, her memory dysfunction of the, with the paddles. I thought that was very effective. And again, very, very sad, especially if anybody's ever had to deal with somebody who's going through memory issues. I thought that was incredibly effective. And I also kind of like the underlying theme of kind of, see there's like a sick parent, but then there's also like an absent parent. And I think I wrote this in the notes to you, is like, I really kind of wanted that theme explored a little bit further, and kind of, the horror that comes along with that. Some of the things that I know that are going to be tidied up, because this is a first draft, but the scene transitions were a little bit difficult to follow. I think just kind of some setting descriptions, or even title headings would kind of help understand where we're at in the story. Kind of help bring the reader into it a little bit more, because it could kind of be a little bit confusing where we were, and what the location was. And, kind of like Gordon said, I know that some things could have been kind of purposely vague. But there were just kind of like questions where there was kind of characters who I weren't exactly sure, who they were, why they were there. So maybe a little bit more development with that. I think one of them was Pat. And, kind of, there were times where I'm like, wait, is mom alive? Is she actually supposed to be alive? Is this a time loop? Is this what's happening? But then I kind of liked how it was, again, wrapped up in kind of the vagueness and kind of this loss of kind of like a slipping memory. So it all came together very well with the overall vibe and the overall theme. But those were just a couple of the places where I know that it'll be cleared up in future edits. And I know that that's super under, but that's what I had, and I super liked it, and I think that you did a great job with all of the prompts, especially since CTAC was one of them. But I think that the way that you weaved that in was incredibly effective. I was really curious how you were going to do that, and I think you did great.
Yeah, that was a tough prompt. Thanks, Emily. You were
That was a tough prompt.
Yeah. You were at 1.5 minutes, so good job. I mean, left, so you had extra time.
Left. Oh, I was like,
yeah. No, yeah, no. Let me redo this. Okay, timer. All right. Can someone time me? Just because I can't pay attention to two things at once.
Oh yeah, I can.
I gotcha.
Right. Okay. Cool.
All right, I'm gonna have you.
Okay, just let me know. Ready?
All right, go for it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, really tough prompts here. CTAC being probably the hardest one, I would agree. And I think you did a good job of finding a way to work it in there. And just the bar is like the place at CTAC, really. Anyway, so but it works out. It worked out. So good for you, because that was rough. I had a lot of the same confusions and questions and comments as the other two of our co-hosts, so I'm not going to repeat those, just say ditto. I just wanted to say that I did really love the how challenging must it be to be dealing with someone who has dementia at a time when you're in the middle of a natural disaster as well, where you're confined, there's this uncertainty, and you're trying to maintain this sense of normalcy. So that creates a lot of the tension and conflict in the story. So I think that was really a good, plot. It was really effective to go there. Let's see. The real story tension for me is protecting the mother, though, from what's eventually happens. I don't want to spoil the story for you. I do want to know more about Tom, because I think he is a ghost, or as Emily said, like a memory loop, or a slipping memory, or a time loop, or something like that. So I really want to know more about that. But I also know that you had very little time to do this because of, external forces in your life. So this is a really good jumping off point. And I think now that you'll have some time, you can like really go in there and develop some of those things. Because Tom seemed really, for a ghost, if that's what Tom is, he was really clear in my head. I could see him with that fishing line picking up the light off the moon on the bank. I thought that was cool. The sign on the bank that said no climbing on the bank and so forth. So there's some presence in that character. I also liked the Rain Shadows Summer Camp title. And I did see quite a bit. The cabin number 5 was really interesting. The bar at CTAC was interesting. I also felt like the mention of the failed Stormageddons in the past, which is sort of a PNW thing, it was really relatable and says a lot about our region, that we're always dealing with these kind of big historic storms that don't come, and then the ones that do, and we're not prepared. So I thought that was really realistic. I like that. I think I mostly had challenges with the timelines. So, and I gave you notes on that already. So, and I had a couple of questions like, why is the car 3 miles away? And how did all those old people pack it in that far? So I was curious about that. There were some really good lines. I really loved the line, they just don't build people like they used to. And then there's a later echo to marriage in the same way. Thought that was really good. And I also like the parallel idea of living ghosts, as this appears to be who Tom is, and it's also a metaphor for dementia, right? You know, so I think that was really powerful. As with any new draft, I think, of course, you're going to tighten and clean things up and make things more clear. So I'm not too concerned about that. I feel like just from my own reading of it, I feel because I am confused, I just want to say that the sections with Dad in SeaTac seem to be the ones set in the present, and the ones with the mother at the cabin seem to be in the recent past. But I'm also curious about 1994. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I also agree that the dialogue is pretty effective and pretty strong throughout. It is one of your strong suits, Clay. So although at the very beginning, that particular section, it was a little elusive for me. And I think it's just because you didn't want to spoil things that are coming down the pike. So, which is, I understand that. I always do that too. And then sometimes I get knocked for not giving readers enough. So it's a fine balance, and you'll strike it, I'm sure. And then I just think that this is a puzzle to solve, truly, and you will get to it. And definitely it was creepy though, and I was really worried for the main character Corey as they're running back and they see Tom, and then being aware that the mother is missing from the cabin and what's going, that's scary, just taking care of a memory care patient, right? But in a situation where there's another power that could, change reality for somebody, I thought that was really, really good. That brought a lot of attention. So anyway, I look forward to seeing where you take this. And I think you have all the story seeds to make it the story that you want it to be. So, and you hit all the tropes. So good job. And that would be it for me. Clay.
You did.
Yes.
Defend yourself.
Thank you, everybody. Defend thyself. I have nothing to defend. You guys are too kind. I was very hesitant to turn the story in, obviously, and it took me a lot longer than I had intended. But yeah, as you mentioned, a big point about this podcast is to be transparent with the writing process and the struggles that can happen there to help people get through their first draft. So in the interest of transparency, this is literally what I was dealing with while I was writing this story. I was helping take care of my grandpa who has dementia, because my grandmother, who usually does that, is extremely sick right now. So I'm kind of taking care of both of them. But honestly, my grandpa is the bigger job. And so it's kind of like being with a ghost in real life. Like, it's kind of freaking creepy, like, and unsettling and very sad. Like, there's these things that just like go on replay every single day. And it kind of depends on who grandpa's around, like what he wants to talk about. But whoever shows up, he's going to have like the same questions for them every single day, 100 times a day. So I just like, I could not shake that thought of like, this is so weird. Like, I feel like I'm really in like a ghost loop with my grandpa here. He just keeps telling me the same things. He keeps telling me, never sell this place. And, oh, do you like harvest? And, just the same loop of thoughts and memories and that I trigger in him. So I really wanted to write a story about that, because I think that ambiguity is just really built in and interesting to play with and experiment with. So everything you guys are picking up on is definitely there in terms of just first draft sloppiness. There's a lot of that in here because this was a pretty rushed story, and I was pretty distracted trying to write it. Just full transparency. Definitely not my best work in terms of cleanliness or efficiency with the writing process. I was having a rough time writing it, and A lot of the transitions specifically are definitely just wonky because eventually I had to turn something in. And sometimes you get to that point with like a deadline, right? Where you're just like,
Yep.
I know like the plot point, this isn't how I want to get to it at all, but I'm just gonna like, I have to get to it. So like, here it is. Fucking boom. And I kind of did that a couple times with the transitions. Specifically, the dad scenes were kind of meant to glue the past scenes together. And so some of them were, I think, slapped in a bit more than hammered in there, kind of where they needed to theoretically go if you zoom out and look at the story as an outline on paper. But that's definitely not how I want them to weave together in a final draft. And, sometimes when you have a deadline, you just have to do that. You just have to get to the next point and you have to turn it in and fix it in post, because you can fix it in the edit. But like, if you don't finish the story, you can never really fix anything. So
True.
there's a lot of that. Lots of tense slips. Gordon, that you like. I'm glad that you like the ambiguity, and you're right. I'm sure many of the things you noticed were unintentional mistakes. I definitely changed my mind a couple times on tense, and I know I didn't catch everything.
Did you change POV? Did you go from third to first?
Absolutely.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You almost got it. There's one paragraph. I'm like, oh.
Yes, there's one paragraph.
Oh, I almost had it. Okay, that's
Almost
well.
did.
That's
There's
good.
one part I'm like, who's this he? This mysterious he.
The mysterious he.
That's funny. I actually really do too. I want Corey to be anybody. I don't necessarily want Corey to be a male character. So in later drafts, I will refine that, which is why I chose the name Corey, because it could be either one. And I kind of want that to be a standing character for whoever's reading it to see themselves. And I hope that I can get the story to a point where, if you've dealt with this kind of stuff, you'll be able to see yourself there, because I think dementia is one of those things where that experience becomes pretty relatable across the spectrum. Like, anybody who's dealt with it has probably dealt with a similar version of it. I think it takes pretty similar forms. I'm fortunate in that my grandpa's not a mean dementia person. And my wife's dad, or my wife's grandfather he got kind of mean. And so that will happen a lot of the time too. But luckily my grandpa's still super nice. It's just sad.
Yeah.
But he's super nice, so that's a good thing, and he's still like fun to be around in that way, which is good. But yeah, that's you guys caught all the stuff I was figured you would catch, and that I was self-conscious about with the story. But ultimately, sometimes you just have to finish something and turn it in by as close to the deadline as you can, which for me was 3 weeks late. So thank you for being patient and doing this double header so that I could, get my stuff together and be here on this podcast with you wonderful writers. I appreciate you guys.
Oh, we appreciate you. And I just want to say, for the listeners, critique groups, oh my gosh, they are valuable in so many ways. And one of them is it keeps you accountable, and it keeps you.
We're losing you, Tamara. We seem to have lost your mic. Something went offline.
Still no.
Uh-oh.
We're trying to keep Tamara's mic accountable right now, which is the last thing we heard. Yeah, I'm sure she'll figure it out.
How about this?
Yeah,
There, that's working.
that works.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it keeps you accountable, you were saying.
Yeah, it keeps you accountable. And it also keeps you writing ahead, even if you are not ready for it. And I think the coolest thing about a really solid critique group is that the people who are members of it do not feel compelled, even when they have loads of time, to send their most polished work. And I've been in workshops where people send their most polished work, and it's like, no, this is a workshop for a reason. You should not be so afraid to send your baby out to us, because we are here to help you raise that baby up and be the fully grown thing that it's meant to be. And sometimes that means saying, I don't know what to do with this, or I just have bad time. I'm open to ideas. And so really good critique group will say, well, here's some things you can do, or this doesn't work for me, but this does. And it's like without judgment in a sense, like a personal judgment. It's more about we're here to help you and support you. So,
Hmm.
really your drafts should come in raw. I mean, in that short period of time, it's totally fine. I don't think anybody has the expectation of this, fully formed adult that you're bringing into the workshop. It has to be a baby, and that means it's going to be, underdeveloped, and that's normal. So
Hmm.
I do know a lot of people who have a hard time with critique groups because there's this sort of expectation that their work be perfect, and it's like, no, that's not the point. And there's 3 other heads in this room with me who can help me, so let's do this. And not that it's anybody's story to write, it's still your story, but
Hmm.
we've all been there, and we're all human beings. We're not automatons. I know right now we're in this climate where readers think they can tell writers what to write, and like they have this idea what it is to be a writer. No, we writers need to look out for each other, and that means being supportive in a critique group. So anyway, that's my soapbox. I'm going to get off of it now.
I think too that you make a good point, which is I've been in critique groups where people spend a lot of time polishing their stories before they bring them, and then they're very hesitant to change anything because they're so invested in it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people spend like hours like polishing the prose, and I go, but your story doesn't work on a fundamental level. Like you have
Yeah.
like big plot holes, like the characters don't work, and like it's much easier to change that, and you feel much less pressure to change it if you just give it to somebody like in as complete a stage as you can get it to begin with, but not that you spent hours like agonizing over, days agonizing over. Our like
Yeah.
the way we used to damn people with faint praise, we would say it's really good on a
Yeah.
sentence level.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
That's not what you want to hear.
So
No.
But it's not
I
just
mean, for a
one
final
sentence.
product, yeah, when it's published, yes, but
Hmm.
No. Mhm.
Yeah. No,
So,
good point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So, with Gordon having the last word on that, shall we go to Gordon's story next? Are we
We sure can.
ready? Okay. Did you have any other questions for us, Clay, before we do that?
No, I didn't. Didn't
Okay.
have any questions. Thank you for your feedback.
Cool. All right. So, Gordon, you're up, and your story is
hashtag
glass.
pervert glasses for perverts.
Yeah, that's right. Hashtag pervert glasses for perverts. And your prompts were the location was the Gorge Amphitheater, which is in sort of south central Washington. It's on the Columbia River Gorge area outside of a town called George, Washington.
Oh,
Sure is.
really?
Yeah.
Which is so funny. And the PNW quirk is Seattle traffic. Wow.
Not
And
George traffic. So.
yeah, not
It ain't
George
George.
traffic for sure.
For sure.
And what makes this prompt so challenging for Gordon is that Gordon doesn't really drive.
I haven't driven since I moved here in 2016, so it's been 10
Isn't
years
that
since
crazy?
I've been behind the wheel.
So there you go. It's probably
I've
just
also
as
never
well.
been to the gorge, so luckily the woman who cuts my hair goes all the time. So I was getting a haircut, interrogating her. I was like, "Tell me about it. Tell me about it, Kelly."
Oh, good. See, there
Thank
you
you,
go.
Kelly.
There you go. And then the trope was techno horror, whatever that could be. So
I don't even own a
who
computer.
you're working
This
on
is
a
just a
computer,
lie.
dude.
That's just
All
a
right,
lie
that,
right
that
there.
part was too far. But,
Nice try, though.
You either don't
Alright.
drive or you don't have a computer, but both of those things aren't true.
Nobody's
Right.
we wouldn't know who you were if you're that big a Luddite. So, all right. So, who would like to go first? Anybody?
I can go first.
Okay, it's all yours, Clay.
Okay.
Oh, who wants to time? Do you want me to time? I can do timer.
Sure, I'm happy to time everybody else if you time me.
Okay. Do.
Ready.
Are you ready? Set.
Okay. So I really like this story. I like all of your stories, Gordon. But this one, You did a good job for having never been to the gorge. I go there all the time as well. It's near one of my favorite climbing areas, so I was interested how you were going to work it in. I love the idea of this Labor Dave concert. That was really, really fun. I don't know what Dave you're referring to or who Dave is, but clearly a brilliant musician who inspires the greatest of Reiki connections across the entire span of humanity if you're willing to open your mind and soul to that energy defining experience. So this story is really, really fun. It did a good job. I love the footnotes. I like the unconventional storytelling devices that you always employ. This one was sort of like the main character seems to be at a trial stand and answering questions of the prosecution, and is clearly on trial for something pretty severe. I won't get into it too much, but they have done something to somebody for a reason that they feel is completely justified, to balance the cosmic energy of the entire world and of course, the Labor Dave concert that was ruined by these assholes with pervert glasses. So I really like that motif of the footnotes. I liked the storytelling device of the person on the stand, just answering questions that we don't actually get to know, and that is defined in the footnotes right away. Like, we're only hearing the replies to questions we don't actually hear. That provided a fun level of ambiguity to the story, and then you use the footnotes to kind of increase that ambiguity and tension throughout. So it really allowed you to not tell us everything and tell us just enough to kind of fill in the blanks, which was really, really fun. I thought it was also a really good story in terms of social commentary and philosophy on sort of a lot of modern things. I spend a lot of time thinking about social media and the impact it has on people and the impact it has on society as a whole. I think a lot of people probably think about that way more than we maybe would like to, or in my opinion, than we should. But here we are, we live in this era, and I think it was a good story for analyzing a lot of that stuff in a really short amount of time, in just 5,000 words or so. So really good work on that as well. It's interesting. If I'm going to be critical about anything, it's just that there was never a point where I felt scared. Or where I felt too tense as a reader. Now I can't say it's not a horror story, because it is addressing horrible things. It is addressing horrifying things. And it's doing it in this, such a zoomed out way though, that I felt like as a reader, it was hard for me to really feel like I was in any kind of tension, or even that my character was, because I actually know, because of the story motif, that my character that I'm following and that I'm empathizing with is completely, well, I mean, they might be going to prison, but aside from that, they're alive, they're okay, and they actually seem pretty okay with what they've done, regardless of the fact that they might be going to prison. So there's not really I didn't feel much tension with it on the character level. And to me, that was a little bit difficult in terms of wanting to read a horror story and not really ever feeling like that tension infected my experience as the reader, if that makes sense. Now, again, that being said, it addressed horrifying things and horrible things. It addressed like sexual assault. It addressed voyeurism, toxic voyeurism, being blasted onto social media as pornography, which is like a terrifying thing to think about, and a very real thing that is literally happening right now, especially with like the invention of AI and everything like that. There's a lot of that crap happening right now, and it is truly, truly terrifying. So all of it, and there's definitely some murder. I'm not going to spoil anything, but somebody had something pretty horrible happen to them, and so that definitely is in there as well. So again, those elements are there, but as the reader, I never felt affected in a way that I think my favorite horror narratives tend to affect me. So this was an effective piece. It was an entertaining piece. I'd like to see maybe
1 minute.
adjustments made in. Thank you. Maybe any adjustments you can make in future drafts to make us, the readers, feel that tension on some deeper level might strengthen the piece. But I personally, I have no idea how you would do that. So I'll leave it to you because you're a far greater writer than I. I will leave it to you to figure out how to infuse the work with that if you so choose. Either way, I still think it fits in the genre. It's just a different twist on that genre. So that's what I would say.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Clay. Do you care if I go next, Emily?
There you go.
Okay, cool. Um, pervert glasses for perverts hashtag. I agree pretty much with everything that Clay just said, but I have a funny story that will make sense when I share it. So I read this on the Kindle first. I always read. Oh, there's that. Stop. Okay. I read this on my Kindle first, and the Kindle, what it did with your formatting is it stuck all the footnotes to the very end. And even when I clicked on the footnotes in the text, it didn't send me there. So I read the whole thing without the footnotes. And so I had a really different first experience with the story because I felt like it was just a one-sided conversation. And so I was put to the task of trying to imagine who this person was talking to. And I came up with this idea that maybe it was a person like on a bus with headset or earbuds in, talking to someone and telling them the story. So, and it actually more or less kind of worked. It kind of left me in a white room situation anyway, but then I found the footnotes when I pulled it up on my computer and I'm like, oh, that's that's what it's supposed to do. So that was like really cool. And that took away a lot of the white room thing that I was anticipating because it's all explained there. So anyway, I say the narrative hook of this is the title because right away you're like, what is this about? So, I mean, that was a great title. I loved it. Let's see. So really, there's this external conflict that has to do with this court situation, this legal situation, but the internal has to do with this main character trying to explain these things like distance Reiki and this energy transmutation to this incident that happened at the gorge. And I have to say, I really enjoy that because I really I'm super interested in energy work, and so a lot of the stuff makes sense to me. But I could see how it would be really hard to sit in a space in a deposition and try to explain that to people who are not on the same page with you. So I thought that was really kind of humorous. I would say that the only thing, if I was going to be critical, would be that it felt like there's a little too much throat clearing in that section at the very beginning with the distance Reiki, trying to explain what that is. And then later with the whole radio energy waves frequency thing, that could maybe be tightened a little bit more too. But aside from that, I thought it was really, really fascinating. Let's see, I'm going to go down my notes here. Let's see. Oh, I don't mind the verisimilitude of the ums and the zigzaggy nature of the speakers, live chatter with the deposition because they're asking different questions. And you can tell as you're reading along, there's sort of spaces in between that the people who are asking the questions, which are not included in the story, you can kind of figure out. It's kind of obvious what they are. I've actually written a story that was an interview with a journalist, and so I did include the questions, but I can see where this works without it, as long as you have the footnotes at the bottom. And I really love that you used your own expertise working in the field of law to sort of chart this and record this entire story narrative using this forum. I thought that was really cool. I like that. I like it when people bring something new that maybe they only know to a short story, and then that kind of it just enhances it for everybody. Let's see. I also really like that you use these local references like to KEXP, which is this local cool radio station where you could go in and actually watch studio acts performing and stuff. The local bands, Labor Dave is the name of the Dave Matthews concert that's going to happen on Labor Day. That was pretty cool. You have other references, the frequent traffic nightmares in Seattle, and the sites, the specific sites. So insiders are going to love those. They're going to say, yeah, this guy's from Seattle. I get it. So yeah, the overall experience was good. I just felt like it was a little bit slow in spots, just because I think there's some need to explain to probably some very straight-faced people what you mean by, transcendence or whatever, all these things that are happening, and trying to apply that. And I do have to, I need to agree with Clay that I felt like there isn't enough horror. I don't know in a deposition if you have exhibits, but maybe there might be exhibits that show images of what happened that were recorded off the glasses so that we as the readers, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if that's a solution or not, but I do.
1 minute.
Thank you. I do feel like there needs to be something. I think horror readers, when they go into a horror story, they still want to be scared. And while the subject matter is scary, as Clay was saying, I do think that there needs to be at least one image or an idea that's bone chilling in there, or gives you that kind of dread, or whatever, to just kind of narrow it down to what really happened. I mean, we can all imagine, and there's certainly fear and horror in that too, the dread of not knowing and the uncertainty. But I feel like there needs to be just at least one little thing to push it clearly into the horror spectrum. So, and that's it. I enjoyed it. It was really different. Thank you. And Melissa.
All right. So I'm going to agree with everybody else. I absolutely loved the voice. I loved this interesting way of storytelling. The voice was super engaging. The deposition format and the endnotes were incredibly effective. But probably my favorite part of the voice was, how there was absolutely no dialogue back and forth, but you can tell just from our main character that he was just kind of insufferable to be around. Just like, and you did that very, very effectively. And again, with no dialogue back and forth, but through him, you could tell that the people who were doing the questioning were getting frustrated with him. And I thought that that was absolutely amazing, because I can kind of feel like if I was around this dude, that I would probably be irritated as well. But that very much came through. I loved the idea and this explanation of like the vibrational energy from somebody who used to live in Nevada and came across many a Burning Man, patron. There's definitely a specific set of people, and that image definitely very much came through. I've never been to the gorge either, but I think that the descriptions and just everything kind of being told through this dude's vibe, I think was very, very effective. I will agree that I think it is a really important commentary and an honest commentary on what happens to women all over, and how, these advancements in technology can be real horrors and create horrific things for these women. And, that there are these bad people on the internet and, just trying to profit off of all these exploitations. And I think that overall theme really kind of connects us to, the horrors of technology, of AI, of everything else. So it was incredibly poignant and just interesting the entire way through. And again, I really kind of like this idea of good energy and bad energy, and how kind of the gorge itself is just very kind of hippy dippy, and all of these people who are around them are like these Reiki masters, and all of this is happening, and this good vibe, and then this evil vibe that is happening. And I did, as a female, picked up on the tension kind of growing throughout, where there was many times in your story I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? So I did pick up on that very distinct tone of dread that was happening. But then again, kind of like everybody else said, I wanted more of a satisfying horror ending. And I feel like through the end notes, which we were able kind of which I thought were also very effectively used, kind of bringing us back into kind of the timeline of the story. But in the end notes, we kind of just get a couple of words of what this guy did. And I wanted more. I wanted the blood and the guts and the justice for all of the women that he had wronged. So I think just exploring that more of a satisfying ending. Again, I'm not in a deposition format like Tamara was saying. I'm not exactly sure how that'll come across, but I think that you can definitely pull it off. And there was one line in there where he said, I need to anti-wave his wave. I think that's what it was, anti-wave his wave. And that just needs to be in like common vernacular, because I'm just going to use that from here on out. That should just be a saying that I think was just amazing. But yeah, the voice comes through the entire story. And that's the part that I absolutely loved and was absolutely engaging, and it was different and it was unique. Maybe a couple more descriptions of the concert and the concert goers I thought maybe could be used, in the beginning, again, just to kind of pull the atmosphere together, even though the atmosphere was was excellent. And for someone who's never been to the Gorge, I felt like I was there, and kind of getting a feel for the good and bad people that, frequented this concert. But yeah, again, more of like that satisfying, castration at the end would be amazing. But yeah, well done. This was fantastic.
Yeah, there's definitely some terms there in the footnotes that were like, oh boy. And it's interesting because this character is someone who's doing probably what we all, we wish we could do to the person wearing the glasses.
Right.
So, yeah. Gordon, what do you have to say?
Well, thanks, everybody. This is another one where I came up with the title first and then had to figure out a story to go with it. I think if you go back and listen to it, I think I said something about pervert glasses at the last one. So yeah, I had the title and I was like, what the fuck am I going to write about? So like I bandied it about for a while, and then I wrote the whole thing in one sitting. I went to the bar and I stayed there for 4 hours drinking while I wrote this, which is sometimes how it happens. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth, and sometimes you just have an idea and it comes. Definitely with something like this, which is more voice heavy, I think it's easier to do that kind of thing. So I appreciate what everybody said. I think too, my thought is too that it is a little bit horror light, or light on the horror. I've been reading recently an author named Tony Talafamuta, who wrote a short story collection called Rejection, and the lead story in that's online, but it's called The Feminist. And it's one of those ones you read it and it's satire, but it also seems like it might be almost horror, just because it's like this guy who views himself as a feminist in his whole life, and you just cringe and you go, is this bad or is it funny? Or so I think I was probably channeling some of that, which is why the horror didn't necessarily come through. I do like your ideas though about exhibits, because you can have exhibits and depositions. And part of it too is the tension that the narrator has with not wanting to describe things too much, because he doesn't want to also be part of the recording. And my ear things are dying. Okay, so my headphones.
There you
go. So I think there's a balancing act there, but I do think that's an interesting challenge too. And I think part of it is building up some more tension throughout, because I think there's something too that's fun about having somebody who seems like this person, as I was writing them, came through much more clearly. Like they started using Latin at one point, but it's all wrong. It's not stuff that means anything. It's just them saying things they've heard on TV. And so I like the idea of like having that sort of like jolly almost atmosphere, and then trying to build dread beneath it. And then too, when you get to the end, like having that be something more, I think, emphatic, that still is within the tone, but lets you know that like this person's like smiling and trying to explain all this hippy dippy shit, but it's done something very, very terrible that they're not only not upset about, but actually kind of pleased with for themselves. So I like all those things as a balancing thing. But yeah, that's all great. I think that's it.
Cool. This
Yeah.
collection, I'm telling you, you guys, we have such a collection this year. I'm
It's really
so
cool.
stoked.
Yeah.
It's funky. It's
Yeah.
quite a collection. It's a weird eclectic mix of
Mhm.
stories. It's going to be really fun.
The
Yeah.
next one I'll do would
Mhm.
just be straight brutal. We'll quit playing around with like Sasquatches singing to people and
There you go.
Oh,
and distance
You-
ranking.
you
We'll
do
just get
you.
some real brutal, depressing shit.
no.
Those are my two modes.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I'm thinking of the last one you had in Nightmare. I can't remember what it was called, but it was about that like big amorphous thing in the sky.
The big
And it
tumor
was
in
like-
the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was pretty
It's
bleak.
just sad. It's just there's no fun to that.
Yeah, I had fun, but I'm a weird person in that regard. I think a lot of horror
That's
readers
fair.
are. So.
No conventional fun in that one.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't like conventional fun. None of us do.
No.
No,
The
that's
weirder
why
the
we're here.
better.
yeah. High strangeness, baby.
Yep.
It does.
Labor Day.
It makes me think of a. This story made me think of an interesting question because people are always. We've all been to conferences or on panels, right? And people are always trying to like define horror in some way because it's just one of those genres that it's more of a vibe and maybe a little less setting dependent. Like I think sci-fi gets a pass if it's in space, it's sci-fi, and fantasy, same thing. If there's like swords and dragons, then it's gonna be fantasy, even if it's kind of a horror story or whatever. But horror is such a like tone dependent medium that it's a little more difficult to define sometimes, and I think often even wrongly defined. But this story made me think like, is it horror if it is zoomed out to a certain degree, or like do we have to have some kind of connection to the character? Does there have to be a level of closeness? And I'm not saying that I think the story doesn't have that. It just made me think about it. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, is there a level of sort of zoomed out where if we can't connect enough to the character in the story, therefore we can't really get scared, that it remains a horror story, or does it sort of become something else if you're trying to define horror in that way?
I don't know. I think that there's so many different elements. You know, sometimes, I mean, it doesn't just have to be a connection to a character. It might just have to be a connection to, you know, a setting or a situation or, you know, things like that. I think connection to the character is incredibly important. You know, and I think kind of like the more unreliable the narrator, the easier it is to call it, you know, a horror, because we don't know what's happening in that person's mind and if they're telling the truth. But I was actually just thinking about this the other day. It's like not a horror movie, but it's the most horrific movie I've ever seen, and that was called The Zone of Interest. And I don't know
that movie is terrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, like literally, if you're talking about like horror reactions, you know, I'm just, you know, the entire movie, and you know, and it wasn't a horror movie, and I couldn't connect with the characters at all, but like just, you know, the juxtaposition of like a home life next to a concentration camp, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I think there's lots of different elements that that can really connect to the genre.
People, different things scare different people, you know. I mean, I can watch slasher movies and I end up just laughing because I think they're so ridiculous and absurd. They don't scare me. But other movies that are not necessarily billed as horror can scare the living whatever out of me. So I think, and that's the same with trigger warnings too, you know. I mean, what's going to trigger some people is not going to trigger other people, and then some random thing that means nothing to anybody might trigger one person. So it's so hard to gauge. And you do hear that all the time. Like Clay was saying, well, that story didn't scare me. Well, you know, maybe not you and whatever. So you just still have to do it. I still think you as a writer should write the story that you want. But keeping in mind that someone who's expecting horror, a horror reader is going to expect some kind of element of horror. But it's so broad though. I mean, horror could be more thriller and suspense. It could be more fantastical. It could be psychological, all of these things. So
I think that's a really good point you make, is that you should write the story you want to write, but you should be aware of what your readers are going to be expecting. And I mean, God knows, like sometimes I go, fuck them, I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
I've gone through a very
same.
antagonistic stage where I like write stories that are like 4,000 word, one sentence long with no like space breaks in between them, or I do things that are like intentionally almost unreadable, and I'm like, fuck it, I gotta read this shit. But then I go, but those are all for like places where they've asked me for a story, like anthologies where they've asked me to submit something, so I know they gotta print it. So it sucks to be them.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to write something for like, you know, an open call, I'm going to be
funny.
much more not conciliatory, because I don't think you have to meet people halfway, but I do think you have to meet them somewhere between where you are and where they are. And the more you can do to entice them to come further to you, the more you can get away with doing things that are not necessarily what they're expecting. You don't have to give them exactly what they think they want, because a lot of times they just they go, oh, that's fine. Like, you know, some people just consume like books like they consume like Netflix binges, you know, they just want to get something they think they like. But if you can like entice them enough with something else cool, something that piques their interest, it's like a structure, a voice, an idea, like an image, it gets them to come more towards you. You can get them to meet you 70% of the way, 30%.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it halfway, but you do have to keep in mind what they're looking for and whether or not you're going to meet them there and how you're going to find something that you can both agree on.
So I like this because I'm thinking it's the Sarah Grand technique, the come closer technique. Come on, come into my little den and I'll tell you a story thing. So yeah, a little bit of a but you know, you're right too. I think it's important as a writer to think about your audience because they do have an expectation. But I think you're also making a very fair statement that we've got to like balance that with who we are as writers and what our vision and mission is in our own writing lives.
Are we artists or are we content creators?
Yeah.
Oh, I am. Oh God, don't even get me started on that.
I don't sell enough to be a content creator, so I better be an artist.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. This podcast is the content creation, and the writing within it is the art. And you know, doing a little bit of both is important. If you're an indie writer out there, exactly. This is the Dorito coated hard shell around the taco that is our art. And you will get that art.
The soft beans of our
the soft beans of our and cheese too. Don't forget the cheese.
Yes. And the horror only happens after you ingest them, like any good taco.
Yes. I know.
It happens within you.
Just give it time.
Especially if it's got that lettuce in it.
Gordon has his next story idea.
Right.
So taco trucks as a prompt.
Diarrhea. That's not just a regional thing. And actually, I don't think our state ever got recalled
our
for that.
Still pretty okay.
No, we are good.
I had taco time the other day and I feel fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Montana seems okay too. So
we got lucky.
We're all right out here.
We dodged a major bullet there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Take our wins.
And yeah.
So what do you guys? Oh, go ahead, Clay.
Go ahead, Tamara.
I was just gonna say, what do you guys have coming up in the next month or so? Why don't you share with us some news of that? You know, things that you've done, or you want to share with the rest of the group? Anything coming up? Any things you want to let readers know about your writing life?
I have one, but I got to look it up.
Melissa, do you got one?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, Melissa's busy.
Yeah. So when I was talking about the Ominous Thrill podcast, I actually kind of I pulled a Tamara because I remember Tamara was talking about how she pulled out a bunch of old stories and worked on them, and that's kind of what I did. And I saw that they were looking for just really witchy feminist stories, and I had a witch story that I wrote I don't even know how many years ago now. And then I looked back on it with a better writer's set of eyes and fixed it up, and they accepted it. And it's called Fill the Pot, and it's going to be an audio play on Ominous Thrill, and that's going to come out spooky season, so October.
Nice.
Which is really exciting. Yeah. And I'm also did a Seattle Scares episode for the Halloween horror hour that's also coming out in October. So it's kind of interesting. Nice. It's like it's my writing, but it's both in like, audio format, which is really cool. The audio play is really fun because I've never got to write where, you know, actors are going to be acting out what I wrote. So that's really kind of fun.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's a cool story, I think. And yeah, and I actually got paid, which was exciting. That hasn't happened in a long time.
What?
I can't remember the last time that happened. And yeah, and I'm not going to say a lot about it now, but I've gotten some interest in my novel. So fingers crossed.
Yay.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very early, but we'll see. We'll see. So that's
Well, you know, Appalachian horror is like really hot right now. I've been reading Appalachian horror for the last few months. It's all really good. So I mean, you better land a contract because I think your time is here.
It is, yeah. And you know, my family is from West Virginia. My mom was born there. My aunt, my uncle, everybody. And so a lot of what is in that book is just, you know, the random stories that I was told as a kid, you know, that's meant to scare little kids and actually turned out to be pretty scary. So,
right on.
Yeah. A natural storytelling place Appalachia is. So,
yeah.
So what's going on with me?
Nice.
You know, something I learned about Appalachia the other day that had my whole family real upset was John Denver is not talking about West Virginia. Yeah. He's talking about the west of Virginia.
West of Virginia.
Roads. And you can tell when you look at a map because all of the geography that he mentions is in fact in Western Virginia, not West Virginia at all. So my whole life I had a total misconception of what was going on.
Yeah, that's a hard
today blow. I learned. Yeah.
Hard pill to swallow. And to quote Dumb and Dumber, John Denver's full of shit, man. Yet again.
Oh, that's so funny. I did not know that either. I thought it was in West Virginia. So
yeah.
What the hell?
What are you gonna do? Don't trust John Denver. That's what I've learned. I'll never trust him again. This is twice. I'm not giving him a third strike.
Probably pretty high when he wrote it. So
probably.
I get him and James Taylor confused.
Yeah.
Oh, how can you? Can you? That's not fair. Those are two very different artists.
How are you gonna do that to Jimmy T like that?
Don't do that. No.
Well, the only thing I know James Taylor from is Tulane Blacktop, which is a great anti-road movie.
Sure. Did you find your thing?
Sort of, yeah. So it turns out
it's not
going to be until November. So Sarah Walker and Francis Pi Ippolito, down in Portland are putting together a seance anthology. They're going to be doing a Kickstarter for that in November. But I have a story in that's called Excerpts from Mediumship in the Manosphere, which is a story in the form of excerpts from capsule summaries of a fake encyclopedia called Mediumship in the Manosphere about different historical ways of contacting spirits that have been co-opted by incels and manosphere influencers.
I'm excited for that.
I stole this structure from a book by Roberto Bolaño called Nazi Literature in the Americas. And I was like, who are the Nazis of today, other than actual Nazis who are still around?
Sure.
Yeah. It's like the Manosphere. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love it.
So we'll put notes up on that when the Kickstarter goes live in November.
As much as we live in a nightmare, there's just so much fodder and so much fuel for writing. I mean, how could you not have ideas in 2026 for things to write about that are horrifying?
I will tell our listeners too that if you have an idea about anything topical, you should go ahead and write it because I guarantee somebody else has that idea too.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's so many times I've been like, this is a great idea. I'm going to write it, in a little bit when I have time. And then somebody else writes the same thing. I'm like, God damn.
That is so true. So true.
You better get on it.
Yeah. And if it's new, maybe don't share it with other people.
That's why I read
until you've written it.
I was like, I got to get those pervert glasses out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
18 months I'm going to be flooded with pervert glasses. And pervert glass stories.
Oh my. It didn't take it much time at all, right? Jeez.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Perfect.
No.
Well, do you want me to go next, Clay, or do you want to go?
You can go.
Okay. Yeah, and then you can go, and then you can dish out my my challenges for next time.
Oh,
we
right.
can do
I
that.
forgot about that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a really busy summer. I wasn't planning on having a busy summer, and I got one anyway. So there you go. I have a new book coming out in the middle of September, just like 3.5 weeks from now, I think. Yay! It's not horror unless real life is horror, in which case it is. And it actually we have an actual book club selection as part of it because we ran it through my editor's book club, and it was like a hit. So we added a whole book club thing in the back. So I'm super psyched. And I also added a limited series podcast to go with it to give some historical context. It's called The F Word. And I have another episode of that dropping on Friday. So, oh my gosh, I'm doing that. The most recent book I work in came out in late July. It's called Let the Right One Simmer. I think I might have mentioned it last time.
Hmm.
And I have 3 stories and 3 recipes in it. So it's horror stories with recipes, which is funny.
Nice.
And then I sold books at the Stanwood Book Fair with our local chapter of the HWA earlier this month, and we sold out of all of the Raid Shadows and all of the Camp Crypticons, which BTRS Books is part of. So that was great. Horror is alive and well, regional horror especially. So that was great. As for upcoming things, on the 5th of September, which is a Saturday, I'm going to be reading a featured reader at the Moon Cycles Gibbous Moon reading at Kirkland Art Center. That's at 6 p.m. on the 5th. And then on the 17th, I have a reading at Eagle Harbor Books. It's not a reading, it's going to be an interview at 6:30 p.m. on the 17th for Trust Fall. So you can learn about that book there. And on the 23rd, I start film school at the University of Washington. It's an intensive program. Starts in September, ends in June. It's going to be a lot. I'm scared and excited at the same time. But the next time you see me, I'll be calling in from there because it happens right after this podcast is usually over. So, or starting, or yeah, over. So anyway, so you'll see me in a different location. But anyway, it's going to be a really busy fall. I've got a lot of things coming up in October, November, and
Congratulations.
yeah.
So exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot though. I'm just trying to like keep up with my laundry and yard work and stuff between all these other things. It's like so much, but it's a good problem to have though. So I'm not complaining.
That's awesome.
And
congrats
Play,
on
I know.
all the things.
Yeah, and you've got some things too coming up.
Yes. So I work for a film company in Seattle called Itchy Rodent, and we are producing a short film right now. We're actually filming this weekend, and Tamra is going to be one of our volunteer production assistants on set.
Woo-hoo.
So that's going to be really fun to get herself some on-set experience before going into film school. Yeah, it's gonna be really fun shoot. We're doing 5 days, and I haven't been on set for a couple years, so I'm excited to get back there and be behind the camera, be behind the monitor, and doing all the awesome things that happen on a film set, making stories happen in a visual way. So that's gonna be really, really fun, and it's been fun trying to produce a film again. I'm pretty rusty. So knocking off the rust and trying to do that while also working on the farm has been an interesting challenge that I will not sign up to do again. But here we are. We're going to do it, and it's all in motion. It's all happening, so that's exciting. Book-wise, I don't have a lot. I don't have anything new published right now or anything like that. Just working on this, on Rain Shadows is kind of my main focus right now, and I'm still working on book 3 of the Voices from the Cold trilogy, which is my rock climbing horror trilogy. If you're not familiar with that, I talk about it on lots of different things. Though I did pretty recently, just a couple weeks ago, go on that Horror from the High Desert podcast. So if you want to learn more about book 1 of that trilogy and book 2, we talked about it at length. So you could check that out. It's, I think, the second most recent episode of that podcast, Horror from the High Desert. So yeah, Crevasse and Cairn are the first 2, and I'm writing the 3rd one right now. I am also working on another cool project that I'm keeping under wraps for now, but I'm co-writing a novel with another author. We've been working on it for a long time, so I don't talk about it a whole lot, but because we have very different writing styles. I write really fast and not polished at all, and she writes very slowly and kind of polishes as she goes. So the benefit of that is I think by the time we finish a draft, it'll be like, for me, it will be like a fourth draft quality. But for her, it's like draft one still. So it's been a cool process, but that's going to be really fun. It's about a van lifer who inadvertently summons a tulpa. So it's going to be really cool.
Yes.
And
Very cool.
that is on the way sometime in the future. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. Lots of film stuff. We're promoting multiple movies, and this has become a full-time job. And that's super exciting, just to be doing creative work full-time and to be making legitimate money at it. And, that's the dream. So yeah, it's busy, but it's worth it. And it's very, very exciting. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. So yeah, that's pretty much the show, everybody. We're going to now give Tamara her prompts, because she is going to write our next story, and we will be critiquing her at the end of September. So Tamara, are you ready to receive your prompts?
I am.
Okay. So I know I have the Pacific Northwest quirk. So I will go first. I'm not sure how to word this one. So you guys can help me out with a concise way of wording this. But I think this is a relatively Pacific Northwest thing. Because people are very outdoorsy in the Pacific Northwest. But when I've talked to people who are not outdoorsy, they're like, do you seriously go on like hiking first dates or like climbing first dates? That's an extremely risky thing to do in retrospect, which is very true. But I've actually been on several like first dates back when I was having those like 7 years ago before I met my wife. Our first date was at a climbing gym and outside climbing. So even with her, but that's just like, it's a very Pacific Northwest thing to be like, hey, do you want to go in the middle of the woods with me and like risk your life with me for our very first date before we even get to know each other? So that's the prompt.
Okay.
So it's like the opposite of the Alpine divorce.
Yeah, the Alpine beginning.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
The Alpine meet cute.
The Alpine meet cute.
Alpine meet cute. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Or the trauma bond.
Yes, exactly. Voluntary trauma bond, Alpine meet cute. However you want to phrase that for yourself.
Okay.
Not trying to steal the location part of this. But yeah, I think that's a pretty Pacific Northwest deal where you're like, hey, Tinder person, like, want to meet in the middle of the woods? And they're like, sure. So yeah, there you go. The Alpine meet cute.
Okay. Got it. That's interesting. Okay, I can work with that.
M?
Okay. So I was just thinking of kind of bringing my neck of the woods into the folds. I live pretty close by to the Maltby Cemetery. Sometimes it's called the Paradise Lake Cemetery. It's got a lot of folklore with it. I don't know how accessible it actually is, because people say that now like houses have been built around it, so you have to walk through someone's backyard to like get to the trail that like leads you to the cemetery. But apparently it is very creepy. Apparently everybody who grew up in Woodinville and Maltby have, tales of like, oh, we were there, we totally saw the 13 steps to hell, or, like whatever it is. So it does have some good lore around it. It is kind of not super isolated. It's kind of like a isolated but not isolated. But people do say that everything that the Paradise Road in which it's kind of built along, cars will just drive off of it. Nobody knows why. It's a whole lore around here. So I thought that could be a pretty cool space.
Cool. Oh, that sounds like fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's going to totally get me in the spooky season mood too.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
First date at a cemetery.
Oh yeah.
Well, so
I
had this one already written down, so it's not like I'm doing this. But for the horror trope, And this is going to be difficult because there's going to be a lot of easy ones you could do with this, but I want you to push yourself and do something different. They were dead the whole time.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Normally,
were
it's
Good
a
choice,
twist,
Gordon.
and somebody's going to see it at the
time.
beginning, of the anthology. You got to think of how to make it so it's not a twist that's already been spoiled.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that'll be
For
good.
readers who haven't seen it, in the anthology, it's the cover, the title page for each story has what the prompts were. So if they see they were dead the whole time, and then they read and they were dead the whole time at the end, they're gonna be like, I knew that was
It's
coming.
a spoiler.
So you're gonna have to figure out a way to take a twist and make it the premise or something.
Yeah.
Put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we kind of had the same challenge when I gave Clay the everyone is in on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to, put your
I
thinking
think
cap on.
that's
Right,
a good strategy. Is if you ever have an idea and you think that's a great twist, maybe try to move it up in the story. Like, don't leave it for like the last 90%. Maybe move
Yeah.
it up and see, like, what if we put it at the beginning? What if we put it in the middle? What if we put it like a third of the way through?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 'Kay,
'Cause sometimes
I can do
some of the
that.
stuff is interesting after the twist. You're like, oh, that was the most interesting part. So just read the interesting part. That's it.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Right. Makes me think of like Leslie Vernon, I don't know if y'all have seen that, but it's about a serial killer who was making a documentary about himself. And he's got this documentary crew and he's like, follow me. And he's like all cheery and he's training and he's like getting ready for it. And then the night comes and he's like, yeah, I'm going to kill people. Like, what'd you think was going to happen? I told you guys this. And it kind of like untwists the twist in that way, which is really interesting. But yeah, so Tamara.
Yeah.
You ready?
I think I can do that. Yeah. They were dead the whole time. Because you don't want to spoil it. But I mean, that's okay. I'm up for that. It's gonna be my month to just be like have no time to do anything, but that's all right. I'll just bring you my 0 draft. It'll be fine.
That's what we're here for.
That's
Yes.
what you're here for. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but I like it. I think it'll be fun. And I am actually, because I end up going over to the other side where you live, Emily,
think you
that
like
I
that.
actually could, to the other side. Because I live,
Pop over there.
so people who don't know that Clay and I live on the other side of the Puget Sound from Seattle. So we always say we're on the other side. We have to take a ferry to get over to the other side. So go across the pond, as it were. And so, but I do tend to go over there more often now because I have a daughter that lives north King County, or I guess Snohomish County. So so I'm going over there, and so I might be able to see if I can try to get in and just check it out.
Let me know. We can trespass together.
Yeah.
You missed
There are
this,
other
dying to get in joke that you should have
Yeah.
done.
Well, there's several good haunted cemetery situations in Seattle, and a lot of it has to do with cemeteries being moved without people's permission, or in the cover of night. And that's actually why they call it the graveyard shift, because they're usually, when they're moving a graveyard, they do it at night because they don't want anybody to see that.
Yeah.
I did not know that until I was at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, and I learned about that whole thing. And I learned about, I think it's Beacon Hill has some pretty interesting things, because they built, it's just like what is that movie? Poltergeist. It's a whole subdivision was built on top of a cemetery, and so there's some definite stories. So it sounds kind of similar to what you're describing, because people live there. It's not out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like right in their backyard.
Yeah.
And people see things. So it's something where I think there are some spaces you can get there. Anyway, so that's inspiring to me already. So I think I can do it. I think
It's a
I
good
can.
lineup. Yeah.
Hell yeah. That'll be a
Cool.
good time. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Thank you,
Me too.
everybody, for the critique and for your presence on this show. I feel like the cosmic energy has been realigned in a positive way today.
Yes.
And we
Little
can thank our
distance Reiki going on here.
Yes.
Healing.
so much distance Reiki happening right now.
Definitely.
I'll leave you to fill in your own fake Latin. Everybody, viewers, thank you for chiming off in the comments. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to you reading the book and commenting on that as well when it comes out next year with all these stories finalized in it. Yeah, Tamara, good luck with your story, and we'll see everybody
you.
at the end of the month. Goodbye.
Bye.